Two races for the final round of the GT4 European Drivers' Championship for 2020, and in the first race today we had the overall title won by Valentin Hasclaux and Theo Nue. They're going to be out to enjoy this one. Very different conditions. Night has fallen in the last half hour. Full darkness over the Paul Ricard circuit. 1 hour of racing to play. 2 drivers per car. Mandatory pit stop in the middle. Very different conditions, and yes, it's dark at the start of the race, but the track temperature is still there or thereabouts, but it's going to fall away. It is the middle of November in the south of France, and almost sense a little bit of mist starting to hang over the circuit, being picked out by the headlights of the drivers as they work their way around this field. Going to be hard for the drivers, but it's easier when you get to full darkness than half light here at Paul Ricard, because those wide open spaces, hard enough to find your turning point. The markers that you use, your indicating points that you've picked out to turn in, you can just about make them out, how vague they are during the day, but in darkness, very, very tricky indeed. So waiting for a very different grid that we had from race 1, because in race 1 we didn't certainly have the 87 Pro-Am Mercedes from ASP on pole position, but with a driver of Jim Pla's calibre, it was no surprise that he took pole position. He's got the big rumbling V8 Racing Chevrolet Camaro alongside Timon Nabor, who was so strong in the closing stages of today's race, the earlier race. And the 87 Mercedes, Jean-Luc Bobelic, will do the second half of the race. He was delighted with their run earlier today, because Jim Pla in the second half of the race really worked his way up the order. And for AGS events there, Aston Martin will be starting, the one that's claimed the championship will be starting down in 7th position, but it matters not. The title is in the bag for them, and the quicker driving in that pairing, the more experienced driver Valentin Hasclaux, sure to pick up positions in the early laps of the race. Then he'll hand over to his 18-year-old teammate Theo Nue for the second half of the race. Cars coming back round to the grid. They're driving today, thus far, has been in the daylight. No longer. They did night practice last night, so they do know what the circumstances are like out on the circuit. Race due to get underway at local time 6:45 in the evening. So that's coming up in just over 10 minutes time. And for everybody involved in the championship, this is the final round of 2020, and it's been a job very well done. The season compressed enormously by the COVID pandemic. But let's go down to the grid, because we're going down to the grid to hear from Gemma. She's got Cem Bolukbas, the star Turkish driver for the Borusan number 12 BMW.
Cem, we're down to the final race of the season. It's been a fantastic competitive season, and there's still a very small outside chance that you could take the title in the Pro-Am category tonight.
Yeah, it's been an epic season. It's been an unusual season, and it's been my first ever season in a professional racing series. So obviously I'm excited, and like you said, there's still a little bit of chance that we can win the championship. We'll try our best. It's the finale now, but we'll see.
What an amazing way to make your debut.
Yeah, incredible. I'm really happy to be here. Let's see if it can get any better today.
Good luck. Have a fantastic race. Thank you,
very much.
So not so long into karting, actually a major star in virtual racing, Cem Bolukbas. He has a huge following, but car on pole position, Jim Pla, ACA ASP Mercedes, races of course also in the 1,000 kilometres of Paul Ricard. You can see he's got some heat in his brakes and his tyres, steaming away as he sits down there on the grid, but the air temperature will be falling all the time through the course of this 1 hour race. 5-minute board being held up before the cars go around on their formation lap. Timon Nabor will start alongside. He shares with Jo Rapanga, fellow Dutch racer. It's great to have V8 Racing. They've always been supporters of the GT4 European Series in a series of different shapes of cars, but the Camaro very, very popular indeed, and certainly looked very good on its tyres, coming strong in the second half of both stints in race number 1 in the warmer daylight hours earlier today. Bastian Boost, running in the Pro-Am class, will be starting from 4th place. They didn't get a great result in the first race, sharing with Jan Kasperlik, but Bastian has proved very, very quick in the championship this year, racing for Allied Racing, and let's see where he can go. He's had 3 outright wins, 3 wins in a row in the middle part of the season, almost always takes the Pro-Am honours as well. Along just the row behind, Timothée Bouret shares with Antoine Poty. Antoine started the first race on the front row, and the young star will take over the second half of this race. Sister car came here with a championship outside chance for Stéphane Lemeray and Gaël Castelli, and as hard as Stéphane pushed, particularly in the first part of the earlier race today, just wasn't enough to topple the AGS Events Aston Martin. The fact it's starting ahead of their erstwhile championship rivals is slightly galling for them in the second race, but for Valentin Hasclot, the job was done in race number 1. Ian Theo Nue, who kicked off, did a fabulous run in that race. Had to gain ground in the early stage of the race, but came on stronger and stronger. Max Cobalt on board for SRT, the Salazar Racing Team, car number 30. Max Cobalt, Thierry Vermeulen. Thierry will take over the second part of the race. Car 762, SRO Motorsport, came into the championship this weekend with 2 Aston Martin Vantages, and George Gamble, British racer, sharing with fellow Brit Seb Perez, normally found at the wheel of a Porsche. George Gamble has a racing brother as well, Tom Gamble. They're very busy on the grids of Europe this year. And Nicolas Gomard, well, he's had a fantastic season with Gilles Vannelet. Gomard runs the AGS Events team, and they race for fun, but they race for trophies too, and they've already claimed the AM class of this championship. Team Jouffry by Victime normally compete in the French GT4 series, but they've come out to play here at Paul Ricard, so obviously home ground for the French team. Kenneth Haer, also competing for Salazar Racing Team, is just 1 row behind the sister car, and Kenneth shares with Esteban Mout, who went very well indeed. The Belgian racer really was running in, I think, 5th place in the first race, and definitely in the mix in the early laps. Orlando Sport featuring in the AM class, and that's Andreas Meijel sitting on board, then the first of the Borissan BMWs. That's the Pro-Am entry of Yagis Gedik. And then the next row back will go to another Aston Martin, the 3rd Aston Martin from AGS Events, Jonathan Marichal in car number 39, entering the championship this weekend with Fabien Baul. So thumbs up, looking forward to the action ahead. 1 hour of racing. And then Ibrahim Okyai, car number 13, the 2nd of the Borissan cars. He shares with Fatih Ayan, who will be doing the second part of this 1 hour race. That leaves us just 2 more cars on the grid. Maurizio Fondi in the Orlando Sport Porsche Cayman. Then the number 18 SRO Motorsport AM entry, the Aston Martin of Henrik Lingby Peterson. And that will go very well, particularly in the second half of the race, because Markus Lungstrass, his German teammate, is very quick indeed. The calm before the start of this 1 hour finale, the GT4 European Series. Paul Ricard has sported some great GT4 races over the years, but racing in the darkness gives a very different feel. Racing in the darkness on a track that the temperature is going to fall away, the grip is going to fall away, unless drivers can get heat into their tyres. They really need it for the opening lap after this formation lap, and for the drivers taking over after the pit stops. They too are going to have to be careful, because grip is very much going to be at a premium. take a look at the grid, and it's AKA ASP Mercedes on pole position. Jim Pla, Timon Nabur alongside the V8 Rumbler from V8 Racing, the Chevrolet Camaro. Javier Oliveras, he shared victory in the opening race with Luc Ibanez. That was their third win of the year, and Bastien Bus alongside. So it's a NM Racing Team Mercedes alongside the Porsche of Bastien Bus. Then the two CMR Toyota Supras, Timothée Beret 5th and Gael Castelli in 6th. Go back to row number 4. The new champions for 2020. Valentin Hasclo, the AGS Events Aston Martin, and Max Kobel back in the championship for Salazar Racing Team in one of their Mercedes. George Gamble joining the championship, SRO Motorsport Aston Martin. He's running in the silver class. Alongside him, champion already in the AM class, Nicolas Gomar. Then Eric Tremoulet and Kenneth Heyer, two Mercedes on the next row back. 13th on the grid, Autolando Sport. Lead is the second AM runner in the field. And Yagis Gedik, so the Borisan Automotive Motorsport BMW's down towards the tail this time around. Then Jonathan Marichal, the third of the AGS Events Aston Martins. And Ibrahim Okyai, the second Borisan Automotive BMW. And that leaves the final two cars on the grid. Maurizio Fondi for Autolando Sport and Henrik Lingby Pedersen for SRO Motorsport in the second of their Aston Martins. Through the chicane they go. That's halfway up the Mistral Straight. And then, of course, when they accelerate away from there, they'll continue the rise up towards the famous senior corner, the quick. They don't have to go through, of course, the chicane on this formation lap, but they will when the racing gets underway. So the formation lap continues, led round by Jim Pla. So plenty of variety at the front of the grid. A Mercedes Chevrolet front row, Mercedes Porsche on row number 2, and then the two Toyotas, then the best of the Aston Martins in 7th, and another Mercedes in 8th. Then two more Aston Martins. In fact, in all on the grid there are 5 cars sporting the Aston Martin wings. Out of Beausset, the double right-hander after seeing such a critical corner. The field then moves slowly as it gets into 2-5-2 formation into Bend D'Or, the long left-hander, 160 degrees from entry to exit. Then the gentle right-hand kink called Village, and then into those two final corners. When they get to Tour, already the safety car should have pulled off. The lights are off on the gantry, should be approaching pit entry, and will move straight on into the pit entry and leave the field to turn left through Tour and then tight right through Virage du Pont. Two-driver race, and certainly for Jim Pla, he's going to try and take the lead from pole position and build up the largest advantage he can before he hands over to his longtime teammate Jean-Luc Bobelic, and see if AKA ASP can take a win for Mercedes in this, the final race. Paul Ricard circuit looking fabulous. The lighting past the pits, the blaze as the cars will accelerate down the start-finish straight. Look, those lights went very quickly from red to green. Jim Pla seems to have read the situation well. And in third place, Javier Loveras may be able to get up alongside the second place starter Timon Nabur's Chevrolet down into the first turn. Hasn't quite done it. The V8 Camaro had just enough grunt to hold down that second place. Grid positions maintained. Clavera stays in third, and Bastien Bus in fourth in the Allied Racing Porsche. Then come the two. Well, one of the Supras already starting to challenge for fourth place, but Bus holds onto it in that mid-blue Porsche down as they get into the chicane for the first time. So Max Kobel starting to make progress in the number 30 Mercedes from Salazar Racing Team. And Valentin Hasclo, well, he's got the championship in the bag. He's actually dropped back a place or two. And have we had a little off-track moment down towards the tail of the field? One of the Mercedes looking a little bit out of shape down there. I don't know if that was, I think it was Eric Tremoulet, the Team Jouffroy entry. So having taken the lead from pole position, Jim Pla is looking comfortable at the head of the field. He was appreciably faster and the better placed of the Toyota Supras. Getting a little loose there, that was Timothée Beret. He's rejoined the circuit, all a bit of a mad scramble, and suddenly Valentin Hasclo is gaining ground on the two of them. He's got a Mercedes just in front of his path as well. Pushing hard. Have we had a change for second, third place? I fancy we have. I think Bastian Boos has just edged his way past into third. Yeah, he's sitting ahead of Javier Loveras, putting Loveras on the outside line as they go through the long run out of Beausset, in behind a couple of cars running a little bit wide, but the main gain being the driver at the front of the race, Jim Pla, starting to stretch his way clear. And now suddenly Javier Loveras has got Timothy Bouret all over him. We've seen Bouret off the circuit. Bouret's got past, so for Loveras, he started in third position, fell back to fourth, is now back into fifth, and the pack is a-coming. Nose to tail action, loads of Aston Martins down in the middle of the field. Jim Pla leads at the end of the opening lap, 1.1 seconds to good over the V8 Racing Chevrolet of Timon Nabor, who's got 2.1 seconds clear of Bastian Boos. With Gael Castelli it is who's been pushing so hard. But yes, of course, we saw Timothy Bouret was the one in the Toyota Supra that fell back a little bit. So the lead Supra is in fourth place, Gael Castelli. So leading the race, leading the Pro-Am class, Jim Pla. Leading the Silver Cup class in second place, Timon Nabor. Leading the AM class in ninth overall, AM champion Nicola Gomar. So real mix-up up and down the field. The Mercedes we did see running wide down at the bottom of the slope. Eric Tremblay, he's down into penultimate position. Just Henrik Lingby Peterson behind him. Taking a look at the start, very, very tidy indeed. Poleman Jim Pla didn't expect to be headed. There was an initial challenge from Javier Loveras. He had a little look to see if he could get alongside the Camaro, but the Camaro in second place had a cleaner entry into turn one, able to carry a bit more speed with that wider sweep into the corner. There it is, the first four cars with Bastian Boos in fourth place, holding those first four positions. But since that time, as we come out of the replay, it was a real case that Javier Loveras starting to lose a bit of ground. But again, turns 1 and 2 so tricky. Down the slope they went as we look at this continued replay of the start of the race, and then they had to get serious and try and find their positions for the run down into the chicane. And at that point, one of the Toyota Supras pushing very, very hard indeed. Car number 18, Henrik Lingby Pedersen, just spinning the tail of the car that had been running at the back of the pack, the 18 SRO Motorsport Aston Martin. Got it going all over again though. Again, just if you're a little new to the circuit, a little new to racing after dark, trying to find any turning points here, particularly with so few markers near the edge of the circuit, so hard to do. Hard in daylight, even harder now darkness has fallen. Little bit of a mistake running wide, one of the Salazar racing cars. That was the one that Esteban Muth will take over. Kenneth Hire at the wheel, so a mistake at the final corner. So Jim Pla stretching his advantage, nearly 2 seconds to good at the end of the second lap of this race, pulling clear as he goes. A bit of bodywork or something out at the edge of the track. That was there during qualifying for tomorrow's 1,000 kilometres for Paul Ricard. Bastian Boos getting very, very large amounts of pressure from Gael Castelli, but still the Pro-Am Porsche Cayman just in front of the Toyota Supra. Javier Loveras getting back onto the tail. Seems to have regathered his form. This is third, fourth and fifth. Down the Mistral straight they go. Jim Pla stretching his advantage. Nearly 2 seconds over Timon Nabor. This battle for third place. Bastian Boos, Gael Castelli and Javier Loveras, third, fourth and fifth. Well, I sense that Valentin has closed, getting onto the back of that pack as well. Already champion. Third, fourth and fifth in image, just out of shot, just about to come into image. In sixth place was the number 27 AGS Events Aston Martin. And Timothy Bouret another second behind. Max Cobalt in 8th, Nicola Gomar in 9th, and Kenneth Hire, who just had that mistake, down in 10th position. Now one of the BMWs really started to get a move on there. That was Yagis Gedik all over the tail of Kenneth Hire. Brake disc glowing as they turn into the long right-hander that is Bosse. Number 12 in 11th position overall. Sebastian Buus doing a good job for the Cayman, but left half a door open and into the final corner of the lap, barged up the inside by Gael Castelli. Did Flavio Loveras manage to miss the barriers? He went around the outside. And Virage Dupont looking in the distance, yes, he did keep going, but that would have been a scary moment for him. So Castelli getting up the inside there, and yes, third across the line was Javier Loveras, but Gael Castelli and getting into the door of the unfortunate Bastian Buus there and making him spin. Buus crossed the start-finish line in 9th. He had been 3rd, and then cars limping at the edge of the circuit, not surprising. Let's take a look at the replay. Sweeping through Tour, puts you on the right side when you turn into Virage Dupont, but not in a position to take the corner without hitting the 22 Porsche. So Bastian Buus will have to really get it going again. He's fallen from 3rd back to 9th, and is that the Castelli car at the side of the circuit? No, that's still listed as 4th place overall, but certainly moving slowly at the end of the track. Here's Castelli. So he managed to cross the start-finish line in 4th after the contact, but perhaps something untoward. He's got down to a little further down the track, and it's come to a halt for him. Didn't get through the first timing section. Valentin Hasclo now trying to pick up places. He's got ahead of the NM Racing team Mercedes, so it's been a good couple of laps. Valentin Hasclo started the 27 Aston Martin in 7th place overall. He's now up into 3rd. He's got to find about 5 seconds to catch up with Timo Nebor, but he's going in the right direction. And I really fancied in this race that Jim Pla would just stretch clear in the front. He's 2.3 seconds to the good, but he's being caught on this lap because in both of the sectors we're having a gain from Timo Nebor, but not hand over fist, just small amounts. So the better placed of the Supras is in 6th place now. That's Timothée Beret. He started the race well, but ran wide early on the opening lap, lost ground, and he's been hunting his way back, and he's now on the tail of the car that started 3rd, which is showing good progress again. That's Javier Loveras. And he's made that look very easy indeed. It's been a great lap for Valentin Hasclo. He's gone from 5th up into 3rd position. Already crowned champion. I said he was out there to enjoy himself. Certainly great when the pressure's off. He can afford to take risks if he so chooses. Championship no longer in the balance. Certainly putting loads of pressure every time he gets past. You see Javier Loveras trying to fight his way back. And then Racing Team Mercedes running off the circuit. Well, he's going to have to give that position back at the chicane, and so he does, because he gained an advantage by running off the circuit, rejoining ahead of the Aston Martin. But he's shown the speed to get on its tail. He's got company from Timothée Beret. 3rd, 4th and 5th seems to be the place that always has the battle in this race. Doesn't seem to matter who's in the trio. But ever since the first lap of this race, just over 10 minutes ago, 3rd, 4th and 5th have been nose to tail, whoever they are. So let's look at the points as they stand. Bastian Buus will take, with Jan Kasperlik, will take the Pro-Am Cup if they stay where they are at the moment out on the track. Bastian Buus down in 13th position after being so rudely nerfed off the track at Virage Dupont. Don't know if the car's sporting damage. Just taking a look, yeah, his lap pace has really fallen away, so I fear it's probably not as good as it was when it left the showroom. Now, one of the runners there in that pack, it's the Supra, ran the wrong side, unless my eyes deceive me in the dark, of the marker bollards, and that would be a driver warning for exceeding track limits at scene, one would feel. It was car 762 that stopped at the side of the circuit a short while ago, so I didn't identify it till now. That's George Campbell, who started mid-grid. George Campbell in one of the SRO Motorsports Aston Martins. So unfortunately that has had a tumble, or had a mechanical malady and stopped at the side of the track. But again, under cover of full darkness, very, very hard to pick that out. Valentin Hasclo running in third place. Javier Oliveras just a third of a second down behind him. He's been passed, but he's not been dropped. But the first two pulling clear all the time. Jim Pla now clear by 3.2 seconds. Timon Nabor also lapping very quickly indeed. He's trying to hang in there for V8 Racing. It's really across a double pairing is what counts. It's Timon Nabor and Jo Rapanga, and I think their combined pace ought to be greater than Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Bobelic. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Still time aplenty in this 1 hour race. Just looking for the intervals, first part of this lap. Yeah, a little bit more advantage gained by Jim Pla in the lead of the race for ACA ASP. There he goes into the chicane. Dark grey and gold livery for ACA ASP. Very, very tidy, both in and out of the chicane. Team in the ball pushing on two, just waiting to see their second sector times. Second one should be coming up. Who gained an advantage in the second of the three sectors? It was the driver who was chasing Timon Nabor. So very, very even between the pair of them. Just over 3 seconds, the gap between first and second. Then 7.5 seconds back to the Aston Martin of Valentin Hasclo. There, brake disc glowing into Beausset goes Timon Nabor. What we saw in the earlier race, track conditions not similar at all, because of course the track conditions are much colder now. It's full darkness. With this Camaro, despite your automatic assumption it's a big American racer, of course it's not particularly. It's a much smaller car than the earlier Camaros, and the weight is relatively down, but it seems to be quite light on the tyres. Or more to the point, maybe the drivers are light on their tyres. It certainly came good towards the end of the race. Maybe it can do so in the cool of night as well. So leading the race, leading the Prime class, Jim Pla by 3 seconds or so, over 3.47 seconds now, nearly 3.5 seconds over Timon Nabor, who's the leading Silver Cup runner, and the leading AM runner, Nicolas Gomart, in 7th overall. It's been a really, really good run from him. He's only 1.5 seconds down on Max Kobolt's Mercedes in 6th. So Gomart really enjoying his run. But like his teammate, like Valentin Hasclo, he knows the title is already his in the AM class. And so he can relax and enjoy at Paul Ricard. Headlights trying to pick out turning points, braking points, marking points. Again, for so many drivers, they don't race until they race in GT racing on a circuit after dark, and it really adds another dimension for these drivers. A lot of people who do it, the more they do it, the more they like it. And the driver leading the front of the field, Jim Pla, has just decided, I'm going to pick up the pace of it. I've got to build an advantage to hand over to Jean-Luc Bobelic, and he's faster than anybody else. He's 6/10 gained in the first sector alone over the chasing team in Nabor, so that is a very, very handy margin to add to the pile. And Javier Oliveras last time around went ahead of Valentin Hasclo. He'd been hunting him for a while in that battle for third place, and he's gone back past. So the order seesawing a little bit backwards and forwards. Timothée Beret trying to hang in with them in 5th place in the number 66 Toyota Supra. I could be wrong. I sort of sense that Beret is able to hang with them if they make slight mistakes, but every time they seem to get their heads down, he just loses out a little bit. But as I say that, maybe I'm just sensing that Valentin Hasclo has lost a little bit of speed. He's only just behind the 3rd place Mercedes, Javier Oliveras, but he had been ahead. He's been passed. How are his tyres? How are he faring? Round through Virage Dupont, still got that little advantage, about a second or so, or maybe 6/10 of a second over Timothée Beret. Seems to have that in hand. Doesn't seem to have an answer though to Javier Oliveras. So win in race 1 for the NM Racing Team Mercedes, and potentially another podium coming their way in race number 2. Could still be another win. But, and it's a big but, if they want to win overall, they've got to overhaul the V8 Racing Camaro, and that's 8.5 seconds up the road. Timon Nabor putting in some very, very good laps indeed in 2nd place. Looking a little bit further down the order, the yellow Salazar Racing Mercedes Esteban Muth will take it over in the second half, but it's Kenneth Heyer at the wheel at the moment. He's in 9th place. Plenty of company. He's got the Borisan number 13 BMW. Ibrahim Okyai right on his tail. Again with the headlights blazing their way through the darkness. Hard to pick out the cars until you get them sort of side on, and then sometimes the lights of the chasing car will illuminate the flanks, and you can see exactly which cars are turning in and out of the chicane. Max Cobalt there in 6th place, I sense, is starting to just get a little bit closer to the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. So it's Chloveris in 3rd place, Valentin Haclo in 4th, Timothy Beret in 5th, and catching all of them, Max Cobalt in 6th. That's what we like to see. There is the Red Wing, that's the AGS Events car in 7th, the AM class leader, Nicolas Gomar. Pit window will open when we get to 35 minutes remaining in this race. You can see the clock counting down from the hour at the top of the screen. R2 means the second race of the 2 we have, and it's the final race of the season for the GT4 European Drivers Championship here, and Drivers and Teams Championship here at Paul Ricard. Yeah, Nicolas Gomar putting in some very, very respectable times. He's running in the AM class, all AM, shares with Gilles Vannelet, but lapping very much the same pace as at least 2 or 3 of the cars ahead of him. Leading the AM class, next car in AM, he's in 7th, is in 10th place overall. 3rd car in AM is Andreas Meyer, the Autolando Sport Porsche driver, in 11th overall. Jim Pla continues to pull away, 4.6 seconds to the good, but Timo Neborg very safe in 2nd place. He's 8.7 seconds ahead of this Mercedes, the gunmetal and red entry from NM Racing Team. Javier Oliveras being kept on his toes by Valentin Hasclaux. Slight misting over the circuit. It is November. The night is cooling down very quickly indeed. Still just looking at the lap pace of Bastien Boost, that number 22 Pro-Am Porsche from Allied Racing that had been running in 4th place and then was given a shove up the inside by Gael Castelli. Unfortunately is running way down the order and way off the pace. Clearly damaged, so unfortunate for the Dane. You like to win, get any race as close to the front as you can, but you want to end your season in style, and unfortunately what looks could have been a good result for them has run away with that contact at Virage du Pont. Certainly there's no way at this point in the race that we'd have that car lapping 5 seconds off its best pace, and that unfortunately is the pace that Bastien Boost is managing at the moment. Valentin Hasclaux still just over half a second down on Javier Oliveras in their fierce little battle for 3rd and 4th positions. Timothée Beret one and a bit seconds behind, 1.6 seconds down. As I said, just not quite able to live with their pace, able to catch up again if they make a slip up and their battle becomes a little bit too hot. But right now, Silveris has things under control there in 3rd place, so not too many challenges from Valentin Hasclaux. Jim Pla, though, will soon be 5 seconds to the good at the head of the race. Sweeping through the second part of the chicane, the downhill chicane, as they drop to the bottom of the circuit down the slope to Saint-Beuve. And despite whatever Timo Neborg throws at the Chevrolet Camaro, he can't get it close enough to the ACA ASP Mercedes. That's car number 87 leading the way. First part of the lap, in fact, their pace is very similar to within a few thousandths, but then you get to the middle part and Jim Pla, particularly in that final sector, then just edges ever further clear. So look at the graphic on the left of the screen. You can see who's gained and who's not gained positions, and the top 3 cars have not gained positions. They're in the order they left the grid. But Valentin Hasclaux is up to 4th place. He started 7th, so he can be pleased with himself. 3 places gained. He has run 1 position higher. Was 4 places gained, but then the 15 Mercedes got back in front. and has remained there since. Drivers in the pit lane already have helmets on, gloves on, all their suits on, ready to take over when it comes to their pit stops. Pit window opening in just over 3 minutes' time. And having mentioned that George Gamble pulled to the side of the circuit, Eric Tremollet did likewise, and Gael Castelli, we did have a brief shot of Gael over some barriers, not him gone over the barriers, that was just the camera angle. So 15 of the 18 runners still going in this race. 66, that's Timothée Beret, one of the two CMR Toyotas in this race. The Supra is proving very popular. You can look at them and see how well balanced they are. So certainly a good car for a lot of drivers to get accustomed to GT4 in. But quite good fun as well. 5.1 seconds, the margin of advantage for Jim Pla at the head of the race. Middle sector of the lap is the hunting ground for the grunty V8 Racing Chevrolet, but the first sector and the third sector in particular, as Jim Pla just has the balance at the end of the lap through those tricky corners. Beausset, Bendorf, Village not too tricky, but Tours, the Virage du Pont, that's where he's got that ACA ASP Mercedes high on its toes. And now cruising in slowly there, number 27, Aston Martin. What is untoward? He's running in fourth place. Suddenly seemed to lose some pace. Just trying to gauge right now. He had been right on the tail of Javier Loveras. I spot a bit of smoke coming out of the back. Quite hard to tell in the darkness. Well, maybe it's not slowing as much as I thought. Maybe it was just an impression in the light. But it looks like, yeah, he doesn't look as fast as he has been before. In a sense, yeah, he's running outside of the circuit to let others through. So thank goodness for them. They've already got the championship in the bag. Pit window not yet open. It looks like the 27 Aston Martin may be heading in with a problem. That would be step up everyone else. AGS events, that's Thio Nue waiting for him, but you can hear the team trying to listen to what their driver is saying as he limps slowly back towards the end of the lap. Now he's found when he's gone past the chicane on the back straight, he's clearly not intending to continue in the race because you get a penalty for missing the chicane. He's bringing it home. So for Thio Nue, I think it's probably a case of off with the helmet. You're already champion. You don't just get to get your final run because it's a big problem there. Whatever it is that's slowing the 27 AGS events, Aston Martin. No problems for Jim Pla though. 5 seconds clear at the start of the last lap from Tiemann Nebor. Tiemann's still putting in some cracking lap times. These two very much the class of the field. There's the Camaro rumbling its way through Virage du Pont. See what the gap is between them over the start-finish line. 5.6 seconds, another half-second gain by the race leader, Jim Pla. He's going to go as long as he can. The pit window is going to open in a few seconds' time. Pit window open for 10 minutes. All the drivers have to do for their pit stop is be into the pit lane before we have just, well, 10 minutes from now, when we just have 25 minutes left on the clock in this 1 hour race. What is the problem? Happened very early in the lap, but at least Valentin Hasclo, 2020 champion, has made it back towards pit in. Of course, he's not expected to continue in this race, so he's not taking his speed right to the white line where the drivers have to get down to the pit lane speed limit. He is cruising. So Timothée Beret moves up to fourth place. Max Cobold in the SRT Mercedes to fifth. AGS events, one of his other cars, the AM class leader, AM class champion Nicolas Gomar, now up into sixth. So if you can have a mechanical failure, when it looks though that is the case for Valentin Hasclo, have it when you have, not in the first race of the championship, but you're going to have it in the last one. Make sure you've got the championship won. So no stress or strain for them. Disappointment, but the championship is theirs already. Timothée Beret now pushing on and on. He'll be coming in relatively soon to hand over to Stéphane Lemeray. They came here with an outside hope of the overall title in the silver class, but unfortunately for them, they couldn't get ahead of the AGS events. Aston Martin in the first race and that got just the finish it needed to make sure that it gained plenty of points. They finished 4th and 5th respectively, with the Toyota in 5th, and that meant the gap between them opened out rather than closed. That's why the championship was settled. Going to go round for a few more laps in the lead of the race. Jim Pla. Team in the Boer likewise. 5.6 seconds was the gap between them last time around. Wait for the V8 rumble down the start finish straight. 5.1, a half second he lost, he's gained back. Henry Lingby Peterson doing into the pits, the second of the SRO Motorsport Aston Martins, but now the first, because it's the one that's continuing in the race. George Gamble dropped from the running earlier on, so one car still to go, but great to have SRO Motorsport coming out to play the GT4 European Series. Pressing on, he's got Europang waiting to take over from him in the pit lane. V8 Racing hoping to end their season with a result better than anything they've achieved before. Had a couple of seconds, but never a first in the championship. 66 in the pits though, that had been running, got promoted to 4th place when the 27 Aston Martin pulled into the slow lane effectively to limp back to the pits. Stéphane Lemeray now strapped in, door closed. The light that was shot into the cockpit so the belts could be secured correctly. Very good touch there from CMR, learning as they go. Well, Jim Pla really trying to maximise his time at the head of the field. 5.1 seconds to good. Had been slightly more. Pressing on hard, pressing on the brakes. You can see them really, really glow. Those discs as he dives down into Beausset. Well, he's still got time for another couple of laps, I think, quite sensibly, before he comes in to hand over to his teammate Jean-Luc Beaubelic. So, leading the race, leading the Pro-Am class, 5 seconds to good over the silver lineup of Team Nabor and Europanga. Car in 3rd is also a silver pairing, Javier Oliveras, who's driving the NM Racing Mercedes right now. He will hand that over to his teammate Luc Ibanez. And Max Coburn slowly, quietly moved up to 4th place. It's the SRT, the leading SRT Mercedes. He's got a teammate waiting to take over from him in the pits, Thierry Vermeulen, fellow Dutch racer. But for Max Coburn, he's 9 seconds behind the car in front, which is now coming to the pit. So in fact, he'll move up to 3rd place overall. Javier Oliveras has reported into pit lane. Better lap from the car in 2nd place. The advantage has come down by an entire second to race leader Jim Pla. They're not running in the same class, because Silver Cup cars for the more experienced and better ranked drivers, silver pairings, what we have from 2nd, 3rd and 4th positions. That's the V8 Racing Camaro, the NM Racing Mercedes that's in the pit lane at the moment, and the Salazar Racing Team Mercedes number 30. But the race leader is in the Pro-Am class. He's the pro. He's Jim Pla. He's going to be handing over what had fallen to a 4.7 second advantage to teammate Jean-Luc Beaubelic. I reckon he can still manage another lap at least before he decides to make his pit call. He's going to go as deep into his stint as he possibly can to try and build an advantage before he hands over to his teammate Jean-Luc Beaubelic. And again, it happened in the first race today that towards the end of a stint, the V8 Racing Camaro is still very good on its tyres. And Team Nabor, the last few laps have been very good for him. And he's just set the fastest middle sector time of anybody. The middle sector of the 3 is the point where the Camaro really seems to find its form relative to the race-leading Mercedes. But he's getting closer rather than dropping away. So Jim Pla's trying to stretch the advantage. The pit window is still open. But it's not working, because right now Team Nabor is closing in. He's going to hand over to Europanga, who ought to be faster than Jean-Luc Beaubelic, but a challenge for both those drivers. And And the third of the AGS events, Aston Martin's running in the AM class, Fabian Boll entering the pit lane. And in fact, as hard as Timo Nebur pushed and continues to push down through turn 1 and turn 2, vaulting over the curbing, Jim Plar actually did eke a tiny bit more of an advantage last time around. 4.75 seconds, the gap between first and second. Been first and second all race long. This is Jim Plar led away from pole, but let's just reiterate, Jim Plar is in a pro-am lineup, so necessarily he's got to do as much as this race as he can before the pit window closes and do it as fast as he possibly can. Looking for changes, vast majority of the drivers have now served, apart from the top two cars, served their pit stops. 89 in the pit lane, we saw that coming in a short while ago. Aston Martin, so it's 39, it's Fabian Boll who's showing that this weekend. He's joined by Jonathan Marichal, two French racers. And again, experience in tucking the new driver in, always something that is developed with time together in the car. The top pros get out as though they're on springs. So Fabian Boll out of the car, looking around, his job is done. Now it's up to his teammate Jonathan Marichal. Just says check your mirror, check your driver mirror on the door. This surely the last lap for our race leader Jim Plar before he comes in. Likewise, Timo Nebur, they've run the longest stint they possibly can. They've got to get into pit in before it closes with just 25 minutes left on the clock. And that's the answer for the question. Jim Plar comes into pit lane, and 1, 2, 3, in comes the Camaro as well. The gap, I sense, might have come down by a small margin on that lap, but can't really tell. But they'll be the last two pit visitors. Everyone else had a bit more caution and came in more evenly spaced through the hour to give the drivers equal billing. Yoda Pang walks out into the pit lane, hoiks the door open on the number 17 V8 Racing Camaro. Simon climbs out. In the background, you can see, Tiemann taking over in the background, handing over to Joop, who now slides into the Camaro in the background. It's the Mercedes closer to us. Jean-Luc Bobelic is the figure who just slid on board that. Full darkness at Paul Ricard. I think it looks fantastic in the dark, but unlike the normal time we have at the circuit with racing in the night, we normally have it in the height of summer where it's still very warm indeed, but temperatures falling away at Paul Ricard in the night. It is the middle of November, don't forget. So Luc Ibanez, his car was third before the pit stop, started the race third, fell down the order a little bit, worked its way back. He's taken over from Javier Oliveras. Where will his car be? Should still be in third place after the pit stops, but let's take a look, because Luca certainly pressing on very hard indeed. Rumble of V8 Racing Camaro as it goes down, still with the speed limiter on in the pit lane. Looks to me to be a whole lot closer, but again, he has to go very slowly to pit exit, whereas now over the white line, accelerating away, Jean-Luc Bobelic. He's got 24.5 minutes to defend the lead of this race in the 87 ACA ASP car, and it looks like one of the BMWs at the side of the circuit. I would reckon that was it Fatih Ayan? I cannot tell you though, but very soon, it's Cemboluk Bazi. We heard from him down on the grid. And unfortunately, 12th position is going to be not his for a great deal longer. In fact, he was running in 8th position. Very unfortunately, he'd just taken over and started to set that car's fastest laps. So in the Pro-Am class, it's lost the car second in class. So ninth has fallen. It covers some of the misdemeanors, but I think that was just clearly a mechanical failure for the Borusan Automotive Motorsport BMW. Lots of glare from the lights in the dark here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Jean-Luc Bobelic led out of his pit stop. Timon de Boer has handed over to Jo Rapanga. We'll give you the gap between them when they get into the next timing interval around the circuit and let you know how close Luc Ibanez is behind them. He should still be about 10 seconds down the track behind him in third position, but he's pressing on. We'll start to see what sort of pace the second drivers can do in the first two cars. The AM in the Pro-Am lineup that's leading Jean-Luc Bobelic. Once he gets up to speed, let's see how that is relative in terms of pace to the chasing Jo Rapanga. So Jean-Luc Bobelic leading the way and leading the Pro-Am class, so a really proud run. Joined the championship this weekend for ACA ASP and brought his secret weapon, not so secret anymore, long-time partner in crime, Jim Pla. Jim did a really good job from pole position, built out an advantage to 5.7 seconds. I think it's come down a little bit, just waiting for the V8 Racing Camaro to go over the start-finish line after the race leader, Jean-Luc Bobelic. Oh yeah, Camaro's closer, Jo Rapanga already closing in. Remember, before the pit stops, it went down to 5.7 seconds. What's it going to be between them now? Jo Rapanga, I reckon, 2.4 seconds between the pair. The final part of the lap, huge chunk of time was gained by the Dutch chaser, the racer in the Chevrolet Camaro. So could this be a first win in the 2020 GT4 European Series for V8 Racing? Yeah, the rate of gain is marked. A big ask for Jean-Luc Bobelic to stay at the front of the field. Of course, he'll give it a go. Really, Jean-Luc came to prominence when he won the gentleman class in the endurance, Blancpain Endurance Series back about 7 years ago, 2013 in fact, and very much the AM loves his racing and just simply can't get enough of it, but he's been partnered by Pla for some time, racing in GT3, World Challenge, and in GT4 for the fun of it. Fabien Baulet pushing on, and Gilles Vannelet as well. AGS events, they've still got 2 of their 3 Aston Martins running in the event, but unfortunately the car that was limped in from what it had been challenging for third place, Valentin Hasclot, his car still sitting in the pit lane, so that may get out towards the end of the race, but only for practice, really, testing purposes. I said I'd let you know how far back in third position Luc Ibanez was. I said I reckon it'd be about 10 seconds. Well, last time around, he's 10.25 seconds down on Jo Rapanga, but the gap between first and second is going to come down. Will the gap between second and third? Because in fact, yes, very impressive looking lap times coming in now from Luc Ibanez. So our top 3 currently covered by 12.5 seconds. Will be closing down, will be closing in, but certainly look, our race leader, he's almost not the race leader anymore. 2.4 seconds was the advantage first and second last time around. If it's 0.4 of a second, it won't be any more than that as they go across the start finish line. It is 0.4 of a second. So still Jean-Luc Bobelic down to the first corner. Verrières, he turns in, still in the front of the race, but he's the AM. His teammate Jim Pla is the pro. Jo Rapanga, a better balanced team pairing. That's why it's in the Silver Cup class. He's fit, he's young, he's got the ability to flick the headlights, to try and warn Jean-Luc Bobelic. Well, that was a very tidy manoeuvre down into the chicane, but Bobelic could see that coming. The team would have been saying, just look out, don't turn across his nose. And of course, he's not that sort of driver anyhow, so he made it easy, stayed out of the way. He's going to see how long he can hang on to the tail. But at this point, the Camaro just has a lot more handling in it. Certainly you're driving with a great deal of confidence. Let's take a look at the replay of the move. Yeah, certainly Jean-Luc Bobelic could see the move coming, did not turn in until as late as possible to avoid contact. And so that was the change of the lead of V8 Racing. Will they go on from here with just under 20 minutes remaining, under 19 minutes now, to take their first win of 2020, and this, the final race at the final round. Well, Jean-Luc Beaubelique may have been passed, but he's not really dropping away too much on the tail. Going to see how long he can stay close to the Camaro that leads the way. So our Pro-Am race leader, class leader, now down to second overall. It's Silver Cup cars in first, third, fourth, fifth. It's an AM runner in sixth, Gilles Vannelet, AGS Events. He'd be very pleased with life indeed. He's got a cushion of 22 or so seconds back to the second car in the AM class, which is Giuseppe Gezzi. 13 seconds. No, let's do the maths on that. 17 seconds. Down the start-finish straight. Last time around, it was still Jean-Luc Beaubelique in the lead of the race. This time around, it's Jochen Rapanga. What's the gap between them? Couple of seconds. 1.7 seconds, the gap between first and second. So pulling away in the lead of the race. So we've had a few tumblers in this race, mainly mechanical problems we feel have taken cars to the side of the track. Running around, effectively I think we've got the cars running down to 13th place. Yes, Dario Cerati appears to be bringing up the rear for Autolando Sport. He's running in the AM class. Antoine Potti trying to see what he can do about closing the gap on the third place Mercedes. NM Racing Team, the car that won the first of the races here, can't because it's going the other way. The gap is going out. It's 15 seconds the deficit he has to Luc Ibanez. Just also looking at the lap pace of the driver who's trying to give chase, Thierry Vermeulen, and he's in the number 30 SRT Mercedes, Salazar Racing Team, but for Vermeulen he's going the other way. He's slower on lap times, not by much, but by enough to just gradually fall away in fifth place, but suitably comfortably ahead of Gilles Vannelet, who's already got the AM class title in his pocket with Nicolas Gomard. Vannelet, let's see if he can try and close in a little bit. He might find a few tenths here or there. Car 30, Thierry Vermeulen, running in the silver class, sharing this weekend with Max Cobalt. Still pushing on, still trying to avoid those bollards at the edge of the circuit. You can see some have been knocked over a little bit, particularly on that sweeper down. We've seen it time and time again down towards the bottom of the circuit. The three-part chicane, the entry to that at what is effectively turn number 3. It's a place where many a bollard gets knocked aside. Mercedes really does make a fabulous rumble. Not quite as good, perhaps. More sort of rounded noise than you get from the V8 Camaro. The sweetest engine, of course, is the one that's leading the race in terms of any driver's sentiment. If your car's at the front of the pack, whatever equipment it's got, it's good equipment. 3.5 seconds now, the advantage. Jochen Rapanga ahead of Jean-Luc Beaubelique. Oh gosh, Luc Ibanez is only 1.7 seconds down in third place. The number 15 Mercedes is getting closer and closer to the 87 the 87 Mercedes. The Pro-Am front runner in second place. Jean-Luc Beaubelique knows the race has gone away from him. He's 3.5 seconds down from the race leader. But he's got Luc Ibanez, who's close. He's closed the gap by about 9 seconds, about 3 seconds a lap. Or sort of 2.5, 3 seconds a lap over the last 3 or 4 laps. So he's going really, really strongly. But it looks for the NM Racing Team that their third win of the year could be followed by another visit to the podium. They're third at the moment, but they could be heading up into second place. In fact, I sense, was that the move already just being made? Yes, I think that was the move being made. One Mercedes ahead of another, but it's ACA ASP back into third place. Luc Ibanez, there we are, confirmation from the graphic, up into second. Made it look easy, sweeping up to scene. Yeah, a tidier line, a tighter line. Jean-Luc Beaubelique, though, will be going, but I'm racing in the Pro-Am class. That's what I need to win, and that's what he's heading to do. Next car in the Pro-Am class, all the way down in 12th position overall, Jan Kasperlik. That Allied Racing Porsche that started so strongly from 4th on the grid, clearly still not right after that early contact when it was given that shove up the inside of Virage du Pont. Garage du punt, as it was in that particular case. Punted up the inside by Gael Castelli. Race leader pulling clear, final quarter of an hour of the race. And what was 3.5 seconds? Let's take a look at the replay. That's the change for second position. Left-hand side of the screen is Jean-Luc Beaubely coming up to the turning point to the chicane on the Mulsanne straight. Keeps out of the way, very gentlemanly driving there, and Luc Ibanez doesn't need a second invitation. So Silver Cup class first and second, separated by 4 seconds. It's the V8 Racing Camaro, Yorapanga at the wheel, and then Luc Ibanez. There he is, car number 15, NM Racing Team. This Spanish racing team really has been making quite a splash in the GT4 European Series. The NM of NM Racing Team stands for team owner Neil Montserrat, former racer, and it's good to have his cars going so well. A dozen minutes remain. Ibanez 4.2 seconds down on Yorapanga. I'm going to see their respective pace, and you know what? The faster driver is the car in second place. The driver of the car in second place, it is Ibanez. He's passed, he's dropped the 87 Pro-Am Mercedes of Jean-Luc Beaubely. 1.6 seconds to good after just one lap since that passing manoeuvre, but he's taking chunks of a second out of the race leader. We've got just 12 minutes remaining. The gap is coming down. Has Rapanga got this under control? Does he know? Is his team keeping him informed that he's being caught little by little of the new second place runner, Luc Ibanez? Field still rumbling around, and some quick times now starting to suddenly come from Antoine Potty. Well, he's got to gain 15 seconds to catch Jean-Luc Beaubely, but he's suddenly found some form in the 66 Toyota Supra from CMR. The sister car, Gael Castelli, pulled off at the side of the circuit some while back. Antoine Potty, well, pride is at stake, and he's picking up the pace very nicely. Thank you very much indeed. Potty, one of the new young faces in GT4. Only just 17 years old early this year. Bit of Formula 4 in Asia in 2018. Carried on in kart racing this year, stepped up, had the very experienced Timothy Bouret for a teammate as he moved into GT4, and he is really showing very good form. I don't think he'll have enough form to get up to third place, but let's not count him out. His target is Jean-Luc Beaubely. But look how the gap's been coming down by a second, by another second, by more than a second the last 3 laps. Luc Ibanez down. He just banged in the fastest final section of the lap of anyone. Well, the real challenge for these drivers. 10.5 minutes remain. The gap last time around 2.989 seconds on the start-finish line. In the first section of this lap, another quarter of a second has been gained by the chasing Mercedes. Can they make it 2 wins from 2? Well, I thought it was way beyond them, but it's been a really, really strong run from Ibanez. So will V8 Racing, they've had 2 second places in the championship this year. Will they hang on for their first? But actually 10 minutes could be a long way to go for them, because certainly the NM Racing Mercedes is on an absolute flyer. Out of the chicane, up the second part of the Mistral straight they go. There could be no confusion from Yorapanga. You often get headlights in your mirrors, but when they get larger and larger, that means someone's closing. All racing drivers know that, all drivers know that, but unfortunately for him, it's the rate of gain of the 15 Mercedes from Neil Montserrat's team that is the remarkable factor. First sector, I think another 0.6 of a second has been gained in the first 2 sectors of the 3 sectors that make up this lap at Paul Ricard. First to second is coming down. 9 minutes remain until the checkered flag could be shown. But it could easily be effectively 9 minutes. It's a question of when the cars go over the start-finish line relative to the end of the hour. This, the final hour of racing for the GT4 European Series for 2020. 1.8 seconds, the gap between first and second on the start-finish line. And last lap, just a whisker over a second gain by the chasing Mercedes. And again, catch the V8 Racing Camaro is one thing, pass it is another. Always difficult in the dark, always even more difficult at Paul Ricard, where it's so hard to see any vantage points on the circuit, any points that mark out, that delineate the edge of the track. Well, nothing more Ibanez can do than press on. Pride dictates he would like to take 2 wins at this meeting. He could have been higher in the championship. They had a couple of results that didn't really go their way, but really it's been a very, very strong season indeed for the NM Racing team. They've got those 3 wins on the board already. The first of those came at Misano back in August. The second one came at the Nürburgring at the start of September. Since then their form has dropped away a little bit, but now they've very much found their form again at the end of the season. They close the season in the dark here at Paul Ricard. Very, very similar cornering angles, but a little more caution from Rapanga through the first part of that sequence through Senior. And he's run off the circuit, so the grip has really gone away. That's why he's so cautious. The exit of Bose got it all wrong. Simply the Chevrolet couldn't go where he wanted it to go. He ran wide through Bendor. They go now through the right-hand flick, if you will, at Village. But then who's going to line up and get into the lead going into Tour? It's the Camaro into the penultimate corner of the circuit, but then you leave yourself exposed for the sweep by into Virage du Pont. Change of lead, and we lose our race leader not only from the lead of the race but from the circuit as he went wide. The grip has totally gone away from that Camaro, flashing his lights, not happy with life anymore. Nothing more he could do because he was hunted down and passed very easily indeed. New race leader Luke Ibanez. Watching on from the pit lane, Javier Loveras. Certainly at this point in the race, Yo Rapanga could be heading for their 3rd second place of the season. Would so have loved a first win, but the grip had gone away. At this point, these closing stages, Luke Ibanez's Mercedes just looks that much more well balanced around the circuit. He's able to position the car with more confidence, and certainly the Camaro. Let's take a look. Ran a little bit wide, and they're followed by an awful lot wide in the second part of Bose. It's a right-hand corner that goes on and on and on, and then cautious through Bendor, has the moves covered. What move is going to come next from the chasing Luke Ibanez? And then Chevrolet still ahead, but slow going into Tour, and that meant sweeping around the outside, and then with enough grip to take the inside line into Virage du Pont, the final corner of the lap, and take the lead of the race. The Camaro eventually came back to the circuit, but is now falling away in that second position. They would have loved to have had a win, but the clock eventually still had time on it, and that was the friend of the chasing NM Racing team, Mercedes. So the Camaro rumbles on, no longer in the lead, but in the second place. The NM Racing Mercedes pulls into the lead, pulls ever further clear. So should be very, very exciting greeting with 2 wins here at Paul Ricard if the next 5 minutes go according to plan. The Camaro is still there or thereabouts, but just looking at their lap pace around this lap, as they cross the start-finish line. There was half a second between them last time around. It's just under 2 seconds now, and yeah, 1.4 seconds gained on that lap. And a car that could have been so much better placed. Look, a little bit of front-end damage, if anything, on the... Let's take a little look in the 22 Allied Racing Porsche. Quite hard to tell when you look head-on. But it will be heading to the Pro-Am title. Bastian Buss and Jan Kasperlik. They've had to limp around. Kasperlik will bring it to the finish of the race, but... really, the damage done early on when it was knocked out of 4th place was enough to put their hearts in their mouths. But with Cemboluk Bazi retiring from the race with his teammate Yagi Skedik, it meant that suddenly it was all safe for Bastian Buus and Jan Kasperlik. Can be bittersweet when you think it's all been taken away from you, but then your rival pulls off at the side of the circuit, and you feel for them, but you also feel it could have been taken away from you as well. And Kasperlik, so much experience in GT4 Porsche Caymans. Seems to have been racing them forever. Perhaps that's just my imagination, but he's been with Allied Racing for a long time now, since 2014, competing with Porsche's GT4 series all around Europe. Doesn't need to press anymore, doesn't need to push too hard, doesn't need to make any errors, no point. He's got this under control. But Luc Ibanez pulling ever further clear in the lead of the race. What a meeting Neil Montserrat's team is having. Had it not been for a couple of mixed results, most notably at Zandvoort, then they could be smiling. In the AM class, it's Gilles Vannelet all the way for AGS events in 7th place. Nicolas Gomar started the race, and it's AM runners in 7th, that's the Aston Martin we're looking at now. 8th place, Giuseppe Jesi, and the remaining Borissan Automotive BMW in 9th. Those 3 AM runners, not terribly close to each other, certainly big advantage to Gilles Vannelet at the front of that field. Luc Ibanez leading the race, though stretching ever further clear as we continue to look at Gilles Vannelet, who is going on towards another win in the AM class. But NM Racing team and Mercedes car 15, the laps are counting down. This is the final lap, and he started it 3.195 seconds to the good, and he's even stretching that advantage through the first sector of the 3 that make up the lap here at Paul Ricard. Second place, Europanger pushing as hard as he dares, but he doesn't have to push too hard because Antoine Potti is some distance further back, in fact 17 seconds further back, so a very comfortable cushion ahead of the CMR Toyota. Then Jean-Luc Beaubelic has fallen back down in the last lap to go down to 4th position overall, but still the dominant runner in the Pro-Am class. So even with a little twitch, just showing how hard he's pushing around the final lap, Luc Ibanez continues to stretch his advantage at the head of the field. Now surely he can back off. 3 seconds advantage is plentiful. Around Beausset, tricky Beausset. He goes for the final time at full racing pace. In the background of the shot, the Camaro is still there to keep him honest, but not close enough to challenge. So almost done and dusted for number 15 NM Racing Team. Luc Ibanez building on the work of Javier Oliveras round the final corner for the last time, the last racing lap of the 2020 season. Europanger actually maybe slightly closed in at the end, doesn't need to. He takes that 2nd place, their 3rd second place of the season, and completing the top 3 for the Silver Cup runners. Silver Cup runners in the top 3 positions. Antoine Potti will be coming through in his CMR Toyota. 4th and leading and winning Pro-Am will be Jean-Luc Beaubelic, building. He took over from the driver who handed it in from the lead of the race, Jim Pla, but still class victory for ACA ASP. They'll be very pleased with that. And then he's got 2 Silver Cup runners behind him. The SRT Mercedes Esteban Mutz, that's car number 31 in 5th place, and 6th place, also Silver Cup, another SRT Mercedes, that's Thierry Vermeulen. Then the best of the AM runners in 7th place overall, it's the 89 AGS Events Aston Martin. He's got that one under control. So, job done earlier today, job done again. Race 2, same winners as race 1, but of course, this time around it was Luki Gimenez who brought it home and Javier Oliveras who started it, quite the reverse of the first of their races today. So that's it, the conclusion of the GT4 European Series for 2020 in the darkness here at Paul Ricard Circuit. It's been a great season, and already with the title, overall title in the bag in the Silver Cup class, Valentin Hadclo didn't finish the race. Tia Nue didn't even get to start it. He was going to take over. That problem just before the pit window for them, and it didn't matter though. Yes, they'd have liked to finish the season with a win. They'd like to finish it with the finish, but they've finished it with the title, and that in the end is the most important element for them. So the marshals waving their flags for almost the last time. They've got the cars coming around for one further lap as they cruise back to the pits, but darkness, proper darkness, will fall over Circuit Paul Ricard. We have a lot of racing coming our way tomorrow, most notably with 1,000 kilometres of Paul Ricard. So NM Racing Team, they won earlier today. They've won again by 3.8 seconds at the end as Luke Ibanez caught and passed Jura Panga's V8 Racing Camaro. Third place for the CMR, the remaining CMR Toys and Supra, with Antoine Potti pulling that home, just moving past in the final lap or so. The Pro-Am class winner of Jean-Luc Bobelic, who was still well clear of 2 Silver Cup runners, the SRT Mercedes, brought home by Esteban Mout in 5th and Thierry Vermeulen in 6th place overall. Leading finishers in AM were the Aston Martin crew from AGS Events. Nicolas Gomez started it and Gilles Vanderlei finished it to take that subclass. But really, NM Racing Team, they have ended their season on a high in the GT4 European Series. And for both drivers concerned, for Luc Ibanez, who brought it home, and Javier Oliveras, who started the race, it's been a fantastic meeting for them. Now, let's take a look at the points. Thank goodness, as they retired from this final race, Valentin Hadclo and Tia Nue had things under control. But with those 2 wins here, up into 2nd place overall in the championship, Javier Oliveras. Gal Castelli didn't get to finish the race with his teammate Stéphane Lemeray, so that's why they fell back to 3rd overall at the end of the season. And in the Pro-Am Cup, Bastian Buus and Jan Kasperlik, they limped around to the end, but the title was theirs because Cemboluk Bazi and Yagis Gedik failed to finish the race. And in fact, Pro-Am honours today, as we saw, went to Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Bobelic by some big distance. In the AM Cup, Nicolas Gomez and Gilles Vanderlei already had this in the bag. Look at their margin of advantage. That's 85 points over Bob Herber. Bob wasn't down here at Paul Ricard. It would have been slightly less, but even so, for Gomez and Vanderlei and the AGS Events Aston Martin team, it's been a dominant season for them in the AM class. But for Javier Oliveras, hauling Luc Ibanez out of the car, 2 wins from 2 for them here. Very, very happy indeed. So a very happy Spanish crew. And just waiting as Gemma's about to get his position, but they're so happy, they're jumping around, waiting for the drivers to take their helmets off. But our winners, Luc Ibanez and Javier Oliveras, what a day it's been from them. Let's hear from them.
Xavier, fantastic celebration still taking place down here. You guys are elated.
Yeah, we are. It was a really, really difficult race. We were fighting for vice champions, and I think we did it. I don't know.
Absolutely, superb race.
Yeah, it was a really difficult first stint for me, but then Luke did a fantastic job as always, and he overtook the Camaro that was really strong as well. But yeah, we won.
Still sinking in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's just see if we can grab Luca quickly.
Yeah.
He's just getting a mask on. Grab your mask. Grab your mask, Luca. It's just on the roof of the car. He's coming to join us. We can just let you grab that and pop it on. Fantastic last stint there, that final overtake. Were you able to breathe a little sigh of relief at that point?
Yeah, I'm fighting to the Chevrolet, and we have the opportunity in the last corner, and I passed him, and I fight him in the final of the race and win, and second in the championship.
Yeah, I think so.
Congratulations to you both. Well done.
Well, the race was fought out in cover of darkness, but nothing could hide their talent. Yuki Benet, who brought it home, and Javier Oliveras, who started it, but from the outset of the race. But let's take a look at that. The end, it was the hunting of the Camaro, and it really was very cruel in the end, because with so much more grip, Yuki Benet was able to put that number 15 Mercedes up the inside into that final corner with a few laps to go, and then thereafter he pulled out nearly close on 4 seconds advantage to take 2 wins from 2 here at the end of the season. But let's go down to our Pro-Am champions. They didn't win today, but Bastian Buus and Jan Kasperlik took the title.
Bastian, Jan, you've finally done it. The Pro-Am championship is yours.
Yeah, it was. I think
crazy.
the most exciting ending we could have. A bit too exciting for both of us. We just had to finish the race, and I think it was already on the 3rd lap, I got hit from the rear into the rear wheel, and the whole car was bended. So the steering wheel was like this, and we were like,
electronic failure like hell. Just had to try to keep the car on track somehow, to keep the pressure somewhere, because we just knew that we had to finish the race. So we did the whole season. We did a quite good job. That we had a little bit lead, but this Paul Ricard was so difficult for us the last 2 days. And then in the end, we, like I said, we just knew that we had to finish the race. Then this hit, then the drama started, and that was really crazy. Yeah.
Now you can relax and enjoy the success and the victory.
Yeah, thank you very much. We will do, eh?
we will do.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good to hear there from our Pro-Am champions, Bastian Buus and Jan Kasperlik. Take a look at the start of the race. Jim Pla streaking away from pole position with Timon Nebur alongside in the Camaro. And that's how they ran down to the first corner and through the first corner as well. Really very tidy indeed, but for the drivers, some of them not entirely used to racing after nightfall, and certainly very well behaved indeed. Early in the race, car number 8, one of the 2 CMR Toyota Supras, found itself on the outside line. Not always the easiest place to be. That was Gael Castelli who started the race before hoping to hand over to Stefan Lemeray, but there was contact, unfortunately, with Castelli going up the inside of Bastian Buus, and a big avoidance from the NM Racing Team Mercedes around the outside of Virage Dupont. And then soon afterwards, that 8 Supra pulled off at the side of the circuit. We lost Eric Tremollet, Pro-Am runner, in his Vic Team Mercedes. And then one of the cars we lost was the number 27 Mercedes, Aston Martin, that had been running so well. That started limping in. Not everybody got around the chicane. Certainly very hard to find your marking points in the dark, and some cars running very wide indeed at Senior. Such a fearsome corner. That was one of the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche Caymans. Jim Pla led and ran as long as he could before the pit stops, and just before the pit window closed, he came in that Pro-Am ACA ASP Mercedes and handed over to teammate Jean-Luc Beaubely. But up front there was this fierce battle. The Camaro just in front of the NM Racing Mercedes, but those positions were swapped around. The Camaro hung on as long as it possibly could. Jean-Luc Beaubely started being picked off, but he was looking for Am Honours. That's the Pro-Am Honours. That's the moment where the lead changed for good at the head of the race. And for Luc Ibanez, delighted he comes around at the end of the hour to make it 2 wins from 2 races. The Camaro hung in there with just 3 seconds down at the end of the race. But the season is over now. The champions were decided, but still, they didn't win the championship. But for Javier Oliveras, got up to 2nd overall right at the end. So Antoine Potti, Timothy Beret, 3rd place for them with their CMR Toyota. 2nd place, Yoropanga, Timon Nebur, but with the big smiles on their face, Javier Oliveras and Luc Ibanez. 2 races for them here today at Paul Ricard and 2 wins.
And of course, the NM Racing taking the win there, and it's time for their representatives to join them on the podium as well.
And a team representative coming out there, fist bumps all around for Neil Montserrat Racing representative as he comes up, and now the winner's national anthem will come their way.
Congratulations once again to our Silver Cup winners tonight.
So congratulations, what a meeting it's been for Luc Ibanez, for Javier Alvarez and Neil Montserrat's team, NM Racing Team with their Mercedes. They will have wished there was one more round in this championship, but they really have shown their mettle through the course of this season.
Moving on to our Pro-Am Cup Championship, and in third place is Roshan Automotive Motorsports with Chen Wolodarsky and Yates.
Waiting now for the runners to come up in the Pro-Am class. And we know the identity of our winners, Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Beaubelic, but it's the other drivers who finished today. In fact, only one other car finished in that race because Chen Boluk-Bazi, who was in the mix, dropped out. But here come Jan Kasperlik and Bastian Boos. They're the Pro-Am champions for 2020. Big up onto the second place step. Had it not been for retirement, Chen Boluk-Bazi would have been up there as well with his teammate Yagis Gedik. But the winners today, they led the race in the early stages. Jim Pla following up Jean-Luc Beaubelic. They're on the top step. Pro-Am winners here at Paul Ricard. So trophies are aloft. Mercedes and Porsche, the top two finishers, the two finishers in the Pro-Am running here. Many more finishers in the AM class, however. And in third place, new to the championship this weekend for Borisan Automotive. Sorry, the AGS events car is in fourth place. Borisan Automotive. It's their number 13 lineup of Fatih Ayan and Ibrahim Okyai up into second place will be coming in the AM class. Autolando Sports number 76 crew, Giuseppe Jezzi and Andreas Mayel, Italian duo. And you can hear the cheer ringing out. Oh, they're happy with life indeed. Winning the AM class in seventh place overall, Gilles Gomar and Gilles Vanelay and Nicolas Gomar coming up to the top step. AGS Events, Aston Martin. There we are, confirmation of the top three crews in the AM class, the final round of the GT4 European Series for 2020. And now, the drivers don't get away without the podium for the champions. So for some drivers, they didn't get to finish the race, but they still had already got the championships in the bag. Bastian Boos and Jan Kasperlik sitting, waiting, but their turn will come.
Your watches that are very well earned.
Watches being handed out.
And in the Pro-Am category,
For Valentin Hasclo and Theo Nue, overall champions, Silver Cup champions in the 2020 series. The Pro-Am champions, Bastian Boos and Jan Kasperlik coming out. And welcome back to the podium, the AM class champions for 2020. Nicolas Gomar and Gilles Vanelay putting their trophies down and collecting their champions watches at the end of the 2020 GT4 European Series. It's been a great series, and I'm sure we're going to build and build for 2021. You can see what Nicolas Gomar did. Attention to detail. Make sure you've got the AGS Events drivers spanning the top of the podium, and the Pro-Am champions Bastian Boos and Jan Kasperlik kneeling down just in front of them. So the 2020 GT4 European Series has come to the close. We know our champions. We knew the identity of two of them before this, the final race. But for AGS Events, it's been a remarkable season, overall and AM class champions. And for Nicolas Gomar, clearly wants more team members up there for a photo to mark the conclusion of their season. Well, what a season it's been for GT4 and for all the championships that managed to go racing, and for AGS Events with the Aston Martins. They moved to Aston Martins this year and it's worked for them big time indeed. They took the overall trophy and the AM trophy. They'll be back for more in 2021. Do make sure you join us. It's goodbye from us. It's goodbye for 2020.